AITA for freezing the wedding fund after my fiancée chose a weekend with her relationship coach. I'm Jacob, 36, and I was still finding little gold RSVP envelopes in our junk drawer when Vanessa, my fiancée, started calling our wedding deadlines pressure on her nervous system. We had been together long enough that I knew exactly how she took her coffee, which side of the couch she claimed during football season, and which song she wanted for our first dance before she decided labels suddenly felt heavy. That was the part that made it hard to explain to people later. Vanessa wasn't some shallow, careless person from the beginning. She was warm. She remembered tiny things. She kept birthday cards in a shoebox. She cried when we got our engagement photos back because, in her words, I can see our whole life in these. I love that about her. I loved that she was reflective. She could talk about feelings without turning everything into a fight. When my dad had surgery, she sat with me in the waiting room and held my hand for 4 hours without making it about herself. When my sister had a rough year, Vanessa sent her groceries and pretended it was from both of us so my sister wouldn't feel embarrassed. So when people later asked why I didn't fight harder, I wanted to ask which version of her they meant. The woman I proposed to? I fought for her for years. The woman who tried to keep me as insurance while another man auditioned for my place. No, I didn't fight for that. Our wedding wasn't theoretical. It wasn't some Pinterest board we talked about after 2 glasses of wine. It had contracts, deadlines, deposits, passwords, tasting appointments, hotel blocks, and a shared spreadsheet Vanessa color-coded herself. One tab had vendor contacts. One tab had deposit amounts. One tab had refund windows. One tab had who paid what. I had paid most of the big deposits because Vanessa said it made her feel safe to know I was serious. The venue deposit went on my card. The photographer deposit came out of my account. I fronted the catering tasting because she said we were a team and it was all going toward our life together anyway. She contributed too, but whenever something expensive came up fast, she would squeeze my hand and say, "Thank you for making this feel real." I didn't think I was planning a party. I thought I was building a life. The first change came a few months before the wedding, after Vanessa joined a weekend wellness workshop. She said it was about emotional alignment and relationships. I didn't care. People take yoga classes, read books, go to therapy, join groups. I wasn't threatened by my fiancée wanting to understand herself better. Then she came home from the first session talking about Miles. Miles was 37 and called himself a relationship clarity mentor. He had soft eyes in his profile picture, linen shirts in every photo, and captions like, "A lighter love will never require you to shrink." He ran group sessions, private calls, and weekend retreats for people who felt stuck before major relational transitions, which I later learned was just a polished way to say he made money off engaged people having cold feet. At first, Vanessa quoted him like she was quoting a podcast. Miles says some women confuse commitment with self-abandonment. She said one night while we were washing dishes. I handed her a towel. "Do you feel that way?" She paused too long. "I don't know. I'm just noticing things." "What things?" "The way my body reacts when everyone asks about the wedding. The way deadlines feel like walls." I try to be careful. Deadlines are kind of walls. That's why vendors use them. She didn't laugh. After that, ordinary wedding tasks started becoming emotional emergencies. The caterer needed our final tasting date. Vanessa said the menu options felt like energetic heaviness. The photographer wanted a shot list. Vanessa said being photographed as a bride made her feel watched. The hotel block deadline came up, and she told me she needed a day where no one expected anything from her nervous system. I gave her space at first. I took over emails. I updated the spreadsheet. I confirmed the hotel block. I told her we could simplify whatever felt overwhelming. I thought she was stressed. Weddings make normal people strange. I had seen friends lose their minds over chair covers. Then she changed her phone password. That sounds small, and by itself maybe it was. People are allowed privacy. But privacy isn't the same as building a secret hallway out of your relationship. Her phone started staying face down. She took calls in the laundry room. She stopped wearing her ring in Instagram stories, then said I was being insecure for noticing. One Thursday, she canceled our catering tasting 40 minutes before we were supposed to leave. "I have a workshop call," she said, not looking up from her phone. "With Miles. With the group. The tasting has been on the calendar for 6 weeks." "I know, but this came up and it feels important." So reschedule the call. Her face tightened. That is exactly the pressure I'm talking about. I leaned against the counter and took a breath. Vanessa, I'm not pressuring your soul. I'm asking why a group call with a man you met a month ago gets priority over our wedding. She stared at me like I had said something violent. Miles isn't a threat. He's helping me hear myself. That doesn't answer the question. You're making my healing about your fear. That was the first sentence that made me feel like I was arguing with a script instead of my fiancé. The next few weeks were worse. She said labels felt heavy. She said the word wife made her chest tighten. She said she needed space that didn't feel monitored. Meanwhile, Miles kept texting her after sessions. I knew because her phone would light up on the coffee table at midnight with his name and one of those little gray previews. One said, "Sometimes the body knows before the mind is brave enough to admit it." Another said, "Don't marry fear just because it bought a ring." I remember standing there in the dark living room, holding a glass of water, reading that preview while Vanessa slept on the couch under the blanket my mother had given us as an engagement gift. The next morning, I asked her about it. "Why is Miles texting you privately at midnight?" She didn't even ask how I saw it. "Because I was having a hard night." "And you went to him?" I reached out to someone who could hold room without making me feel guilty. "I'm your fiancé." She looked exhausted, but not in a way that made me feel sorry for her anymore. "You're acting like my fiancé when I asked you not to." That sentence went through me like cold water. I set my coffee down. "Say that again." "Jacob." "No. Say it again, because I want to understand. You want me to stop acting like your fiancé, but keep paying deposits, keep confirming vendors, keep telling our families everything is fine, and keep the wedding warm for you." She crossed her arms. "That's not what I said. It is what you're asking for. I am asking for a pause emotionally. A pause from the engagement. A pause from the pressure. Those are not the same thing." She rubbed her forehead. "I can't talk to you when you're this activated." I almost laughed because I had never felt more still in my life. The room was quiet. The coffee maker clicked off behind us. A box of save-the-date cards sat on the table because she had insisted we order extra just in case. Then she told me about the Clarity Weekend. It was connected to Miles's workshop. A group retreat, she said. A chance to step back before marriage and listen to herself. She wanted to go without her ring because she needed to feel unclaimed. I asked basic questions. Who was going? Where was she staying? Was Miles staying there too? Why did this need to happen now? Why was the man sending intimate messages about her soul involved in her decision about whether to marry me? Every question became proof that I was controlling. "I'm not asking where your soul is going," I finally said. "I'm asking where you're sleeping." She looked away. That was answer enough. I didn't yell. I wanted to. I wanted to pick up the box of RSVP envelopes and dump them on the floor. I wanted to call Miles and ask how many engagements he had dismantled with better vocabulary. I wanted to ask Vanessa when exactly I had become the boring man who paid invoices while another man got her midnight confessions. Instead, I said, if you leave with a man interfering in our engagement, I'm going to treat that like a choice. She blinked. So you're threatening me? No, I'm telling you my boundary. I need space that doesn't feel monitored. Then take it. But you don't get to remove the ring for clarity and keep the registry for convenience. Her voice went soft, which was usually the version of her that pulled me back in. Please don't make any permanent moves while I'm processing. I looked at her suitcase by the hallway closet. She had packed casually, like she was going on a normal girls' weekend. Leggings, sweaters, a canvas tote, the perfume she knew I loved. You don't get to pause being engaged and keep the benefits running on autopay, I said. She shook her head like I had disappointed her. I thought you loved me enough to not punish me for being honest. I do love you. That's why I'm being honest too. She left the next morning. By noon, she had posted a sunrise picture with her bare left hand wrapped around a paper coffee cup. The caption said, "Choosing myself, even when it disappoints people who benefited from me being small." I stared at it for maybe 10 seconds before closing the app. Then the text started. Lauren, her maid of honor, sent, "I'm not taking sides, but this feels harsh." One of Vanessa's cousins wrote, "She said you walked away when she needed support. I get that you're hurt, but leaving her alone when she's vulnerable is cruel." A bridesmaid I barely knew messaged, "Are you seriously canceling things already?" Even Diane, Vanessa's mother, called me that evening. Diane had always been warm to me, But that night her voice had frost in it. Jacob, she's scared. That doesn't mean she doesn't love you. I understand being scared, I said. That's not the issue. Then what is? She's spending a weekend tied to a man who is privately telling her not to marry me. Diane sighed. You're making him too important. Vanessa said he's a mentor. Did Vanessa tell you she asked to pause the engagement emotionally? Silence. Did she tell you she took off her ring? Jacob, she was confused. That doesn't mean she was cruel. I realized then that Vanessa hadn't just left. She had left a story behind for everyone else to live in. That night, I almost lost it. I typed a long message in the bridal party group chat. I had screenshots of dates, invoices, the catering cancellation, and Vanessa's own words. My thumb hovered over send. Then I called Chris. Chris has been my best friend since we were both young enough to think cheap beer counted as a personality. He picked up on the second ring. Tell me you didn't post yet, he said after I gave him the short version. I'm about to. No, you're not. They think I abandoned her. They can think whatever they want for one more night. I have proof. Good. Then stop acting like proof is a grenade. Proof is a seatbelt. I sat on the floor beside our bed because the room still smelled like her shampoo, and I hated that it mattered. Chris kept going. Don't give her a screenshot of you losing it. Don't become the angry fiancé in her healing story. Contracts first. Feelings after. She's making me the villain. Then become the timeline she can't deny. That line saved me from making the worst choice of the whole situation. The next morning, I started doing boring adult things. No dramatic posts. No calls to Miles. No threats. No begging. I opened the wedding spreadsheet and made a copy Vanessa couldn't edit. I downloaded every invoice. I saved every vendor email. I screenshotted the refund windows. The venue contract said that changes involving funds paid by a cardholder required written approval from that person. That person was me. I emailed the venue first. Please confirm the cancellation policy and any refund available for payments made under my name. No further changes involving my payment method are authorized without written approval from me. Then the photographer. The deposit was non-refundable after a certain date. We had crossed that date by 9 days. That one stung. I saved the email anyway. Then the caterer. Because Vanessa had canceled the tasting and we hadn't finalized the menu, I could still stop the next payment. I saved that too. I removed Vanessa from the wedding website login I had created. Before I did, I noticed she had edited the Our Story section. It used to say we met at a mutual friend's barbecue and argued for 20 minutes about the best road trip snacks. Now it said, sometimes love begins beautifully, but becomes a mirror for the places we still need to heal. I just sat there staring at it. She was rewriting us in real time, and somehow I was supposed to keep paying for the page. I took the site down. Then I closed the registry. That caused the first real reaction from her. Her text came in at 4:18 p.m. Did you seriously deactivate the registry? I replied, yes. Why would you do that without talking to me? You asked to pause the engagement emotionally. Gifts for a wedding that may not happen should not keep coming in. You're being punitive. I am being accurate. She didn't respond for 2 hours. Then she wrote, please don't cancel the venue yet. I just need time. I looked at that message for a long time. Not, I choose you. Not, I'm sorry. Not, Miles crossed the line. Just don't cancel the venue. I wrote back, I won't finance your experiment. The next day, I sent one calm email to the wedding party and close family members. The wedding is paused because Vanessa requested space from the engagement. I won't speak for her, but I won't pretend everything is normal either. I am handling vendor deadlines according to the contracts and payment records. I wish everyone peace while this is sorted out. It was boring. It was restrained. It also stopped some of the noise immediately. Some people went quiet because they didn't know what to do with a calm man when they had been promised a cruel one. Lauren called me 2 nights later. I almost didn't answer. I assumed she was calling to defend Vanessa. Instead, her voice sounded small. Jacob, can I ask you something? Sure. Did Vanessa tell you she wanted the wedding canceled? No. She told me not to cancel anything while she processed. Lauren exhaled shakily. That's what I thought. I sat up on the couch. She said, I don't want to be in the middle, but I also don't want to be used. She's telling people you abandoned her, but in the bridesmaid chat she said something else. What did she say? Lauren was quiet for a second. Then my phone buzzed. A screenshot came through. Vanessa had written to Lauren, if Miles is just a phase, Jacob doesn't need to know every detail. I just need him not to cancel anything yet. I read it once, then again, then a third time because some part of me needed the words to change. They didn't. Lauren sent another screenshot. This one was a forwarded message Vanessa had accidentally pasted into the wrong chat before deleting it, but not before Lauren saw it. It was to Miles. I'm not ready to let go of the wedding until I know what this is. That was the moment I stopped wondering whether I was too cold. Vanessa hadn't paused the engagement. She had opened 2 doors and asked everyone else to keep the hallway lit. I thanked Lauren. She cried a little and said, "I'm sorry. She told me you would wait because you always do." That hurt more than Miles. Miles was a stranger with good lighting and vague sentences. Vanessa knew me. She knew my patience. She knew I didn't like public scenes. She knew I would rather swallow pain than embarrass someone I loved. And she had counted on it. I printed the screenshots the next morning. Chris came over with coffee and watched me organize everything into a folder on the kitchen table. Texts in one section, vendor emails in another, payment receipts, Zelle transfers with boring notes like venue half, florals, and save dates. The hotel block confirmation. The registry closure email. The wedding website edits. A transcript of a voicemail Vanessa left after the registry closed. Her voicemail said, "Jacob, please don't make this public. I don't want everyone thinking I'm stupid if I come back." Chris read the transcript and gave a humorless laugh. "Liars hate timelines," he said. "I still feel disgusting," I admitted. "Good. That means you're not enjoying it too much." "I'm not enjoying any of this." "Then keep it clean. Money, dates, choices. No insults. No speeches about her soul." That became my rule. Money, dates, choices. Meanwhile, Vanessa's clarity weekend didn't turn into the romantic spiritual awakening she apparently expected. I learned that from Lauren first, then from the awkward silence around Vanessa's posts. Another woman in Miles's workshop shared screenshots in a private circle showing Miles had been sending her almost identical messages. "You deserve a love that doesn't make you explain your soul. A lighter love will never require you to shrink. Sometimes the body knows before the mind is brave enough to admit it." The lines that made Vanessa feel chosen were not revelations. They were templates. Miles didn't steal my fiancée. He showed her a door, and she walked through it holding our wedding folder behind her back. After that, Vanessa started texting differently. At first, it was soft. "I have had time to reflect." Then emotional. "I hate how far this went." Then familiar. "I miss us." I didn't answer those. Then came the one I expected. "I made mistakes, but we don't have to throw away everything." I replied, "We should talk with the same people who were told I threw it away." She didn't like that. "I think involving everyone will make healing harder," she wrote. "Everyone is already involved. You involve them." Diane called me the next day. Her tone was softer than before, but still protective. "Jacob, Vanessa wants a repair dinner," she said. "Both families. Just to talk. No attacking." "I can do dinner," I said. "And you'll come with an open heart." "I'll come with the truth." Diane sighed like I was being difficult. A real man doesn't cancel a wedding because a woman gets scared. I almost told her everything right then. Instead, I looked at the folder on my counter. "I'll see you at dinner," I said. The dinner was at Diane's house. I knew that house well. I had carried folding chairs through that dining room for Vanessa's birthday. I had washed dishes after Thanksgiving while Diane packed leftovers into containers and told me I was already family. That night, the dining table looked too formal. Cloth napkins, water glasses, a roast no one wanted to eat. Vanessa sat across from me with red eyes and no ring. My mother sat beside me, stiff and quiet. My sister kept glancing at the folder near my chair. Diane sat at the head of the table like she was trying to host a peace summit. Lauren was there too because Vanessa had wanted her maid of honor present for support. Lauren looked like she wanted to disappear into the wall. Vanessa started before anyone took more than 2 bites. "I want to say I'm sorry for how messy this became," she said. "I was overwhelmed. I needed space. I didn't handle it perfectly, but Jacob punished me instead of fighting for us." There it was. Diane reached for Vanessa's hand. "Sweetheart, fear before marriage is normal." Vanessa nodded, tears gathering. I felt like any doubt made me unsafe. Like I had to be perfect or he would take everything away. My mother looked at me sharply, but I didn't speak yet. Vanessa continued, "I never stopped loving him. I just needed room to hear myself." Diane looked at me. Jacob, she was confused. That doesn't mean she was cruel. I took a sip of water. My hand was steady, which surprised me. Diane leaned back. A real man doesn't cancel a wedding because a woman gets scared. The room went very still. I looked at Vanessa. She didn't look afraid. She looked expectant, like she had placed me exactly where she wanted me, in a room full of people who expected me to apologize for defending myself. I pulled the folder onto the table. I didn't cancel a wedding because she had doubts, I said. I ended it because she wanted the benefits of being engaged without the responsibility of being faithful. Vanessa's face changed. Jacob, she said softly. No, you had your version. I'm going to give mine. Calmly. Diane frowned. What is that? A timeline. Chris was right. Liars hate timelines. I started with the basics. Vanessa asking to pause the engagement emotionally. Her taking off the ring. The catering tasting she canceled for the workshop. The midnight messages from Miles. I didn't read them dramatically. I placed printed screenshots on the table. Miles, don't marry fear just because it bought a ring. Miles, you deserve a love that doesn't make you explain your soul. Diane looked at Vanessa. He sent you that? Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. I moved to the wedding website edits. The old Our Story text. The revised one implying our relationship had become something she needed to heal from. Then the registry closure email and Vanessa's immediate text asking why I deactivated it. I kept my voice even. You can't publicly choose yourself as unmarried and privately keep asking me not to cancel the wedding benefits. Vanessa whispered, that's not fair. What part? You're making it sound calculated. I looked down at the folder. Then let's use your words. I placed Lauren's screenshot on the table. If Miles is just a phase, Jacob doesn't need to know every detail. I just need him not to cancel anything yet. No one spoke. Lauren stared at her lap. Diane picked up the paper slowly. Vanessa, are these messages real? Vanessa's voice broke. I was confused. That wasn't the question, Diane said. I placed the next screenshot down. I'm not ready to let go of the wedding until I know what this is. My sister made a small sound under her breath. My mother closed her eyes. I said, that is what this was. Not space. Insurance. Vanessa started crying then, but not like someone relieved to finally tell the truth. She cried like someone whose hiding place had been taken apart board by board. You're embarrassing me in front of everyone, she said. I nodded once. No, you used my silence to make me the villain. I'm just ending the performance. Diane looked older all at once. She set the paper down and stared at her daughter. I defended you because I thought I knew the story, she said. Vanessa wiped her cheeks. Mom, I was scared. Diane's voice was quiet. Being scared is not the same as lying. Lauren finally spoke. Her voice shook. She told me Jacob would wait because he always does. That sentence landed harder in the room than anything I had said. Vanessa looked at Lauren like she had been betrayed. Why would you say that? Lauren looked up, eyes wet. Because you used me to make him look cruel. I was trying to support you, but you were telling us one thing and telling Miles another thing and telling Jacob not to cancel anything. One of Vanessa's bridesmaids, who had been quiet all night, pushed her chair back slightly. So the registry was still active while you were with Miles? Vanessa snapped. I was not with Miles. I said, I never said you slept with him. I said you treated him like an option while treating me like a payment plan. That shut the room down again. I didn't play the voicemail. I had promised myself I wouldn't turn the dinner into theater. I slid the transcript to Diane instead. Don't make this public. I don't want to look stupid if I come back. Diane read it. Her shoulders dropped. I said, that's why I documented everything. Not because I wanted to humiliate her. Because people were already calling me cruel based on a story she built while asking me to keep funding the wedding. Vanessa hugged herself. I came back because I realized what mattered. I looked at her for a long moment. No, I said. You came back because Miles turned out to be saying the same thing to someone else. Her face went pale enough that Diane noticed. I didn't need to prove that part. Everyone saw it. The rest of the dinner dissolved into quiet fragments. Diane asked Vanessa questions Vanessa couldn't answer directly. My mother apologized to Diane for the pain in the room, which was such a polite thing to do that it almost made me laugh. Lauren went outside and cried on the back step. My sister sat beside me and squeezed my shoulder once. Vanessa tried one more time when I stood to leave. Can we talk privately? She asked. No. Jacob, please. Not everything needs to be handled like a transaction. I held the folder against my side. When feelings are used to dodge facts, facts are all I have left. She flinched. I didn't enjoy it. I want that understood. There was no victory music in my head. No satisfaction from watching the woman I once wanted to marry cry in her mother's dining room. I felt tired. I felt sad. I felt like I had carried something heavy up a hill just to drop it and realize my arms still hurt. But I also felt clear. The wedding is over, I said. Any remaining shared expenses will be reconciled by invoice. The registry is closed. The website is down. The hotel block is being released. The venue deposit will be handled under the cancellation policy. I will not have private closure talks where you try to turn my boundaries into another. Emotional debate. She whispered, so that's it. That's it. You're really going to throw us away? I shook my head. You can tell people you got scared. You can tell them you made a mistake. You cannot keep telling them I abandoned you. Diane didn't defend her that time. The aftermath was not clean, but it was final. The wedding website stayed down. The registry was closed before any more gifts could come in. The hotel block was released before the deadline, and I saved that confirmation too. The venue kept part of the deposit, because contracts don't care who broke your heart. The photographer deposit was gone. The caterer refund came through 2 weeks later. I recovered what I legally could and accepted what I could not. The money I lost hurt. I would be lying if I said it didn't. Every non-refundable dollar felt like paying for a future that had never actually existed the way I thought it did. But I didn't pay another cent to keep the illusion alive. People started reaching out after dinner. Not everyone. Some stayed silent because silence is easier than admitting you helped spread a lie. But a few apologized. Lauren wrote, I should have come to you sooner. I'm sorry. Vanessa's cousin texted, I owe you an apology. I only heard her version. One of the groomsmen sent, I'm glad you kept receipts. I would have lost my mind. I almost did. That was the part no one saw. They saw the folder and the calm emails and the clean boundary. They didn't see me sitting on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m. with a stack of save the dates beside me, wondering how someone could look at an aisle I helped pay for and see a backup plan. Miles faded out of the story without me doing anything to him. The workshop circle apparently got messy after the other woman shared her screenshots. He posted something vague about being misunderstood by people attached to outcome, then disabled comments. That was enough. I never contacted him. I never needed to. Vanessa tried to call me several times. I let them go to voicemail. Most were crying. A few were angry. One was so soft it almost worked. I finally saw what mattered, she said. I know I hurt you. I know I got lost. But what we had was real. I believe part of that. What we had been real to me. Maybe some of it had been real to her too. That was what made it sad instead of simple. I texted her once. I believe you are sorry about the consequences. I do not believe that is the same as being faithful when it counted. Please send any wedding expense questions by email. She responded with 3 paragraphs about how cold I had become. I didn't reply. A week later, I left the wedding group chat. Before I did, I sent one final message. I wish everyone peace. Any remaining wedding expenses will be handled by invoice. I'm done being the villain in a story I didn't write. Then I left. The strangest part was the junk drawer. For weeks, those little gold RSVP envelopes kept appearing like the apartment was playing a cruel joke on me. One behind the batteries. One under a roll of tape. One tucked into a stack of takeout menus. Each one felt like a tiny reminder that I had been making room for a life, while Vanessa was making room for an escape. One Saturday morning, I emptied the whole drawer. Batteries, coupons, old keys, rubber bands, envelopes, pins that didn't work. I threw away what needed to go and kept what mattered. There were no dramatic tears. No final speech to an empty room. Just a trash bag, a cup of coffee, and the quiet relief of not waiting for someone to choose me after checking if another man's attention was better. I didn't cancel the wedding because Vanessa needed space. I canceled it because she made me the backup plan and expected me to keep paying for the aisle. She came back asking if we could start over. I told her we already had, just not together. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.